Okay, so we are in EMDR consultation at Good Therapy San Diego. My name is Katie Brooks. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, EMDR certified therapist and approved consultant, and also the clinical director and founder of GTSD. Today, we're going to discuss common issues to look out for during the holidays. It's October, and usually there's not a whole lot of issues around Halloween, but from my experience getting started with issues around the holiday and assessing for those early is probably the best thing, and especially when you're doing EMDR. So some of the issues you might want to consider for your caseload that kind of muddy up the treatment waters are grief. You know, anybody that's lost somebody recently or this year, especially, or it's like the first anniversary of Christmas, Thanksgiving, after losing somebody, conflict, divorce, right? Those things, and then attachment and developmental trauma. So these are the things that I kind of consider as I'm looking at my caseload. And I usually will assess, right? So I will ask pretty early in like maybe October, hey, so the holidays are coming up, and I just kind of wanted to know if you're having any anticipatory anxiety around Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's. What are your plans? And I think it's really helpful because usually clients aren't even thinking about it. There's some avoidance around that. And what they'll do is like the week before, they'll tell you, I'm freaking out. I have to go to Christmas with my mom, and she says hurtful things every single time, and I don't know how to deal with that, right? And you're like, oh, I really wish I had had more time to work on this, especially with EMDR. I want to decrease the SUD. I want to give you some skills, and I need like 5, maybe 3 to 5 sessions to kind of like get you ready for this anticipatory future fear, right? So I find it's really helpful to assess. The other reason why I like to assess is because I'm going to want to stop any developmental work. The reason for that is that, let's say you're doing, you know, a 7-year-old memory with that is concerning their mom who they idealized, and all of a sudden they realize, oh my gosh, my mom actually wasn't very protective of me. And they have these like insights around that, but the distress level is still really, really high, but they're having these insights that like, hey, my mom didn't do some of the things that I wish she would have done. But then they head into the Christmas holiday and they're like, I'm going to tell mom now that at the Christmas party that she didn't do a good enough job. Not that this has happened to me, but yeah, it has. But usually what I like to do is I like to stop the developmental work so that that doesn't happen, because you don't want them activated going into these holidays, even if they're not worried about it, right? And then let's just say you do end up doing some developmental work and they do have these insights, but the SUD has not decreased. I usually will say things like, so I know you've had a lot of insights around your relationship with your mom. However, we have not just decreased and fully resolved the distress level around these topics. And although like you really want to talk to her right now about it, and we will, we're not going to avoid that. I really would like to finish this memory before we do so, right? And like work on how you do that, and so that you're regulated when you do it and it doesn't cause more conflict, right? And so I usually will say things like that to them so that they know, oh, I got to hold off. I have to inhibit this until like I'm done and this is fully resolved. Okay, so I can give you an example of a few case examples. And when I give case examples on video, usually they're a combination of cases that I've had. There's no succinct case that I'm actually talking about because I want to make sure that I keep my clients confidential. So I kind of like add some things in and no identifying issues. But let's say for grief, you might have somebody that had their mom pass away and they have to visit their dad, and there's a new stepmom involved. There's definitely going to be some anticipation around that, and you'll want to target it. Another example of like conflict that I was describing is like maybe your client has had a recent divorce and he has to do Christmas on his own. He's a little bit scared about creating new tradition, and he's worried that his wife is going to text him while he's with his kids and get triggered, right? Another example of maybe attachment or developmental trauma, and I think I already said this, was your client going to Christmas and mom says hurtful things, and how do you handle that during the holiday? So like I said, you're going to want to assess for the future fears, and you're going to stop the developmental standard protocol treatment plan, and you're going to toggle to the present, and you're going to target those future fears, and you're going to use flash forward as either cognitive interweaves or as its own target. So you'll do future fears, you'll do flash forward as an interweave, or you'll use it as a full-blown target. We've already gone over how to do those, and I'm excited to say that Adam has added it to our website. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. So if you go into the website, you can actually see, it's not there. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, EMDR protocols, you can click into it and we're going to start adding to it. So this is the flash forward. This is the panic, OCD, and phobias EMDR protocols within our website. So you can find it there, and it's also called EMDRprotocols.org. So you can actually visit it separately. So GTSC has its own little website as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and close that out if I can. Let me see if I can stop presenting this. Thanks, Summer. How do I do that? Cancel? Hold on. Stop presenting. I got it. Okay. All right. So, going back to the clinical focus, you're going to toggle to the present. You're going to use flash forward interventions, and then you're going to reinforce existing resources. And then practice new skills early, like starting in October. So some of the skills to reinforce or teach during processing, I'm always a proponent of not stopping EMDR. I know we can do these things with cognitive behavioral therapy. We can, right? But it's really beneficial if we can continue the EMDR and use these skills as cognitive interweaves, right? You can actually have them imagine using the skills as like future templates, right? So you're going to do self-care, boundaries, taking breaks. So you're going to encourage pacing, alone time, and emotional space. An example of this might be, your client is feeling depressed and having trouble deciding whether or not to attend Thanksgiving, and needs to tell her mother that she doesn't want to go, right? So you would target that present fear of telling her mom that she doesn't want to go and that she can't go, right? That's going to be the future fear. And then you might do some cognitive interweaves with skills on role play, right? Communication skills is another thing that you might want to help with. And like I just said, it role play. So you might, like, for example, practice how to tell dad how you feel and what you need before visiting stepmom at Christmas, right? So you would role play doing the phone call with her dad. You'll also want to practice de-escalation skills, managing reactive moments. So let's say that case example of the dad getting texts from the wife, that might be a flash forward, right? You might say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen at Christmas with your kids? And he's going to say, get this terrible text message from wife, and you would target that, right? And then of course you're going to want to do regulation, grounding, and containment. I actually think these are the most important skills. You're going to target the future fears so that they can go. You're going to do mental video checks, flash forwards, but really resourcing, grounding, and containment are very, very helpful during this time, because usually people are feeling very overwhelmed and they get hijacked by their nervous system before they even walk into the party, right? So I'm going to have Lindsey go over some of these skills with you. Hold on, I'm going to share my screen once again. There we go. And for the purposes of the video, this is Lindsey Cieslak. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, EMDR trained therapist at Good Therapy San Diego, and also the client relations manager at Good Therapy San Diego. Okay, go ahead, Lindsey.
Thanks. So this is a sheet with some resourcing tools, just kind of in conjunction with everything Katie was talking about, just prepping our clients for the upcoming holidays and just regulating their nervous system in different ways. Some of them are tapping in the resources in session, and some are just kind of grounding skills or behavioral or mental exercises for them to do just in conjunction to stay grounded and regulated, and if there's any kind of stressful events for them. So the purpose for this list is holiday season can stir up attachment themes, family of origin triggers, somatic stress responses for clients. So these brief EMDR compatible resources help clients stay within their window of tolerance before, during, and after the family gatherings. So like Katie said, these would be great to start now, just so they can begin practicing in between sessions. So these are, I like to gauge, like with these coping skills that work with EMDR, I kind of gauge like the needs of my client and which of the skills I think would work best for, either what they're working on or, who they are, just making sure we find something that feels fitting for them. So I don't necessarily go through all of these with my clients, but at least go through enough that they can find like 2 or 3 that speak really well to them so that they can continue to practice prior to needing it too. So the first 2 are like grounding skills. So the first one I'll, go over is the orienting, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The rationale for that is grounding in the present moment to reduce dissociation and sensory flooding. So that's, naming 5 things they can see, 4 things they can touch, 3 things they can hear, 2 things they can smell, and 1 that they can taste. And also kind of encouraging that noticing of the safety of the environment that they're in. And then the other one is just the feet on the floor regulation. Simple grounding, it helps to restore the somatic sense of safety. So with this, you could add the slow BLS just to install that feeling of safety, have them press their feet on the floor while exhaling, repeating, I'm here now and safe. And then you could optionally have them add in lifting each heel just for like a slow BLS to add an increased kind of grounding and calming sensation with that. And then the next few are resources that I would tap in session with them. So I would resource them with slow BLS, and then even have them practice after session, like in between, depending on, again, what works best for them. Have them practice in between with the butterfly hug. So I would teach them that and combining them with that. And then, as needed during the event. So the first one with that would be the inner ally visualization. So the rationale provides attachment-based resourcing and co-regulation imagery. So you'd have them picture a supportive presence at the table or whatever, wherever the event is, having that supportive person next to them, offering calm and encouragement. And then once they have that feeling, you could tap it in while in session. And again, you could have them practice it in between and then bring it in, as needed at the event. Tapping in past strengths. So the rationale for that is to reinforce the adaptive networks linked to competence and mastery. So you'd have them recall a past event of calm strength or boundary setting, and then you'd apply that slow, light BLS while they're holding that image just to strengthen it further. And then another resource you could tap in, the love bubble containment visualization. So this one strengthens boundaries in relational in relationally charged settings. So how you do that, you would imagine a gentle light or a bubble around them. So, or you'd have them imagine the bubble or the light around them that allows connection in, but it filters any tension out. So you'd want to have them gain that sense of felt connection in their body somatically. And then you'd tap that in just to strengthen it further. And then have them practice, like bringing in the bubble as needed in between sessions, and then again at the event if needed. And then the next two are kind of like mental exercises to practice. You could use as an interweave as well. This pause before their react, kind of take that breath to take a minute to choose how they want to engage. So this is a brief cognitive interweave to maintain their regulation. So you'd have them, kind of notice the trigger, take a deep breath, name the emotion silently before responding to activate the thinking brain. So if you're doing some EMDR processing and something pops up, that would be good to practice as an interweave. You could use this, or you could just practice this outside of processing, just the name it to tame it, calm it down, and taking that breath before responding. And then number 8 is another kind of like mental exercise for them to do it promotes cognitive boundary setting and differentiation for those that like kind of are taking on the emotions of others or struggle with codependency, or just being very empathetic. So you could have them visualize 2 baskets, one for the client's emotions and one for the other person's emotions, and have them mentally sort each experience appropriately, just so they can practice identifying what's theirs, what's the other person's. And then
that's a great cognitive interweave too. Especially if you see somebody doing over responsibility, you can actually have them imagine the 2 baskets, and then I want you to put what's your emotion and what's their emotion in the basket and go with that. Right. And then
yeah.
So,
and then the number 9 is just kind of like developing a plan if needed, if they are really heightened. So provides behavioral containment when activation spikes. So rehearse steps, they can excuse themselves, use water or tapping, and then re-enter once regulated. So I think you could probably tap this into of just like imagining, if they do get overly activated, how they can handle it and take care of themselves and either return back or, develop a exit strategy as needed for that too. And then the last 2 are for kind of reflecting back. So they're for afterwards, after the event. So the bilateral walk, shower, debrief, it's a post-event integration to release the activation. So take a mindful walk or shower, noticing alternating sensations or steps. So just to kind of be back in the present, the here and now, and then, just loosen some of that tension that might be residual from the event. The last one is really nice. As Katie and I were talking, like confirmation bias, like our brain kind of is going to automatically search for like what went wrong, or what did I do wrong, or what did I say wrong, or oh, I knew that was going to happen and it happened.
That darn retrospecting.
Yeah.
The ways I screwed up.
Yeah. Right. So to actively practice looking for what went right. So to reinforce adaptive recall and balanced perspective. So having them identify or journal 3 moments that were positive, neutral, or manageable, just to kind of integrate the experience and look for what was good too, just to balance out. So clinician tip, encourage clients to choose 2 to 3 tools in advance and pair them with brief imagery or BLS in session. Framing them as holiday coping rituals increases engagement and normalizes the preparation.
Thanks, Lindsey.
Yeah.
I really feel like these are some great ideas, and I like what you said in regards to like choosing a few that really go with what your client has issues with, right? And so like that last one, the retrospecting, the clients that have a problem with that, right? So you're going to choose that one to work on with them to start, and you would want to do it repeatedly so that they have access to it. Because what I've noticed is if you don't work on these skills repeatedly, they don't have access to it, right? You might go over it once in session, but when they get to the party, they get flooded and their prefrontal goes black and they're kind of like, I totally forgot all my skills, right? And so we're going to give you this paper as well to give to your clients so that they have access to it, they can repeat it. And then we also have another one that I think is cool. Can you see it? No.
It's
okay.
a holiday
It's
one.
different. It's a non-holiday one. So I'm going to send that out to the group as well. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the video recording so we can do our case consultation. Again, my name is Katie Brooks. We are Good Therapy San Diego. You can reach us at goodtherapysandiego.com and intake at goodtherapysandiego.com. Let me go ahead and stop.